Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Joe Bender here from DIMO, and today I'm joined by Yevgeny and Hayati. Why don't you guys say hi?
Hello, everybody. My name is Yevgeny, CTO and one of the founders of DIMO.
Hi everyone, I'm Hayati and I'm the Director of Global Expansion here in DIMO.
Cool. Thanks for saying hello. And let's dive in. Today we're going to be talking hardware devices. More specifically, the most recent flagship release, the LTE R1, which is the culmination of the entire history of DIMO. It's really the best hardware device that's been put out yet. And I guess a little recap, we've had three different hardware devices. All started with the Auto Pi, which was the original larger device, little higher price point, had a Raspberry Pi inside. And then at the end of 2023, we launched the Macaron, which showcased some really cool deep pin composability and interoperability because it used the Helium IoT network, which distributed network of LoRaWAN, which is really cool, letting anyone set up a node. And finally, we arrived at the LTE R1, third generation hardware device, really the best option yet, smaller form factor, more approachable price point, and reliable connectivity, most importantly, thanks to it running on LTE, normal cellular connectivity, very reliable in major metropolitan areas or Omaha, Nebraska. So I'd love to hear you guys discuss a bit just about the evolution of DIMO hardware devices and dongles or adapters, whatever you want to call them. What problems do the hardware devices solve, and kind of what learnings did DIMO gather throughout the whole hardware development process?
So we started with, I think, as you mentioned, with the AutoPi a couple of years ago. That was our first hardware partner. They're a company based out of Denmark. They actually started in a way very similar to DIMO, which is with community-driven development. It was a Kickstarter campaign that I actually participated in back in 2018, and we had reached out to them just probably a month or so after we closed our fundraise to start working with them. And the AutoPi had a lot of features. It's a full Linux box, which means it's got USB ports, it's got video outputs. At one point, we even got Mario Kart running on it, and it's still to this day an amazing development platform for new features and running POCs. Very easy to get started on. But we also learned a lot that not necessarily not every user wants to have all of those features available, and they are a lot of the time more interested in maybe composability or the size of the device or the price point of the device. So that led us to the Macaron, which is something we developed completely in-house and uh, was a great learning experience for us, as well as it had composability with Helium, creating this world where you're your own cell tower, and as your car drives around, there's something that I thought was extremely cool about being able to have your car connect to your own hotspot that you're actually running yourself, right? Talk about supporting yourself. Like, what's better than my own cell tower and I have my own data and everything works together.
Yeah, I
And then,
definitely had someone running a helium hotspot in my building. I qualified for weekly rewards like the second the new week started.
that's and it's something that still I think is going to be very attractive for people moving into the future. But uh, at the beginning of 2024, we met with Ruptela, and they were extremely curious about what we were building. I think Hayati had actually worked with them way back in the day on a previous time in fleets.
Ruptela has been around for many, many years, and in my previous assignments back in when I was in Middle East, 10, 15 years ago, I knew them. Little I knew that we were going to actually partner up and utilize their hardware for our project.
Yep, yep. So this is actually what the device looks like, and you can order it today on our store. And you know, the form factor you'll notice is a lot smaller than our previous devices, and it's got a full LTE module in it and this beautiful case. It has, fully supports the DIMO protocol and also gets a lot of data for each vehicle. For us, it was important to try and balance all these factors of the device, its size, its price point, its vehicle support. And at the end of the day, we found that Riptela is an amazing partner for us, specifically in the vehicle decoding. we're able to work with them to get users much more vehicle data and support a lot more cars globally.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of supporting cars, we got this hardware device. That's one of the methods you can connect to DIMO, and software is the other method through a pre-existing phone app, Tesla app, something like that. What was the rationale behind having these two options, a hardware option and a software option? Why is it important to increase accessibility or optionality for the user?
Mhm. So one thing that's important to understand is, so a car is basically like its own private network, right? You can imagine it's like your Wi-Fi router without being connected to the internet. So to connect it to the internet, you need to buy a modem. And whether the car has a factory installed modem, like something like OnStar or Volkswagen CarNet, um, that's one option, right? To have a modem built in from the factory. The other option is installing a modem aftermarket, which is what this device does. And I think the best way to describe why you need both is actually a conversation that we had with somebody from the Department of Transportation a few months ago. They said, we buy cars for 30 years. And even if they were connected at the beginning, as 3G network shuts down, cloud services shut down, different things happen, even those cars that were connected are now disconnected. So for as long as we're going to have this mixed fleet of new cars, old cars, which is the reality of the world, you're going to need to have a mix of first-party connectivity and aftermarket connectivity to make sure that any user and any car can be made smart and connected.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 2008 Honda CRV. Was the App Store even launched in 2008? I'm not sure. I think maybe I got my first iPhone in middle school, but the App Store hadn't launched yet. The hardware devices are the only reason that I can connect my car to DIMO and get insights that I would have never dreamed were possible in my old Lemon. Of Even though it is giving off like the most minimal amount of vehicle signals, I can still see my battery voltage and my location and my fuel consumption, which was kind of an aha moment of modernizing my old crusty car. Um,
Great point. And to add to it, Joe, is also like if you look at today's like we're a global project, right? And if you look at today's like connected vehicle ecosystem, your big brands, big OEMs, they are available, yes, for us with the brand new models in the US and in Europe and many part of the world. But there are that many part of the world, they just do not provide with the brand new car that connected car experience simply due to regulation issues, or they just don't switch on the mobile app that they have, or they just don't get the cars connected, maybe don't see that fit. So this is again where we come into that area, so we can actually have one of those devices with a 2025 model car, brand new, but it still doesn't have that connection experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this all is kind of in the spirit of an open hardware ecosystem that DIMO has been convicted from the beginning. In the nature of decentralization, the last thing we want is one centralized entity releasing one hardware device and saying this is the end all be all. And although Ruptela knocked it out of the park with the LTE R1, there's the potential for anyone to plug in and develop a hardware device that adheres to the standards and requirements of the network. Talk a little bit about why an open hardware ecosystem is the way to go, and how Ruptela plugs into that, and how it doesn't discourage innovation and interoperability, but it encourages it and wants more options.
Definitely. So DIMO's vision is to be a protocol, right? And at the end of the day, there is over probably 100 or 200 different companies that make devices similar to this one. And in the old way, I think we would have made one device that's only one you can use, and you are really just building a one device that supposed to work with all the cars, which can't actually happen because you really need a variety of hardware companies and you need ability for users to have choice in order to build a protocol that supports many cars. So on our documentation for the DIMO network, you can find the licensing process for how to become a hardware vendor. The requirements are actually fairly low, I would say, in terms of the what all needs to change. For in Ruptela's case, and you can take them as an example of any mature, it has been in the market hardware vendor, they had to add a secure element to hold the Ethereum private keys, as well as support our message specification for how the messages need to be formatted. But their team knocked that out of the park in less than 30 days of development. We had their device be compatible with DIMO, and any company out there that's making these devices today can also become DIMO compatible with, to be honest, without even talking to us, just by looking at the specifications.
Yeah, and Hayati, I wasn't aware Ruptela has been around for 15 years, and I think in such a fast-moving sector, and especially producing hardware where parts and software are evolving so fast, you kind of have to know what you're doing if you're surviving for 15 plus years. So just kind of a testament to how much they've adopted new tech and new trends. Um, so back in the day, you'd buy hardware or software, and what you got on day one was it. That's what you had for perpetuity. And software upgrades and over-the-air updates, they didn't exist yet. We're in 2025, things are very, very different. We even see in the video game industry, a game will launch and then get supported and updated for years and years after that to kind of keep the player base engaged. And it's similar with hardware devices. Things need to be upgradable, modular. Everything's a work in progress. So can you guys talk a little bit about the continued support and improvement of the hardware device and firmware updates, over-the-air updates? What problems were we able to overcome with some of this upgradability and incorporation to the mobile app, which is also being updated frequently?
Sure, sure. This was like one of the key requirements as we were defining the scope of work. For us, it is so important because you're sending around the world thousands of devices, and we really need to have our eyes all over those fleets of vehicles. Anything that would be reported via support tickets to us today, it just drops into one of support agents corner, and then we do evaluate. We do look all the messages that are sent to us one by one, and then if we see any persistent request, then we take them on board. We plan them out, and then we make sure those are implemented for the future firmware releases. So that was definitely one of the key important aspects of the whole solution. So we're glad that is now in place, and yeah, we'll continue to use that as long as it takes.
Yeah, and we've learned from every hardware device. I know we added more LEDs on the LTE R1 compared to the Macron because users were asking, I don't know what these two blinking LEDs mean on the Macron. So just like more feedback for the user, more visual information. As well as I remember one of our engineers, Mateusz, were really improving the geolocation accuracy and the frequency that GPS is being reported, and just constantly improving how we're pulling vehicle signals off the device, which downstream makes the app more useful, makes the statistics more insightful, and it kind of lets people be better drivers in the end. Cool. So I would love to just hear you guys talk about the LTE R1 for a bit, some of the features, some of the plans for the future, just as the flagship device, and how it's improving data accuracy and validity.
Definitely. So one of the many things we learned throughout the different hardware devices we've had was actually the AutoPie. The first one had automatic over-the-air app updates, and people very much appreciated those. I think we actually underestimated how much people like those, because on the Macron we had to do manual updates where you had to go to the vehicle to actually perform them, and we got a lot of user feedback of please don't make me do this again.
Yeah.
And great news, the R1 supports over-the-air updates. We release one at least once a month at this point. And as for anyone who buys this device, there's going to be new features coming basically every 30 days, whether that's improved signals, new data, and we actually have a couple of new features coming up that you're going to see in the mobile app and through the developer APIs. And Hayati can tell you a little bit more about those.
Of course, yeah. One of the most desired and asked feature was actually monitoring the vehicle health. This is all along since we started this journey. That was the question, and our team has done a great job there, working very closely with Ruptela, and I can safely say now that there is a new error code reading feature, but not like the one that we used to use with the autopies in the past. You would need to go to the car and open up your app and scan through the vehicle. This will be all automated, so you just simply plug the device as you're driving along, minding your own business. If a car throws an error, then it will be captured automatically by the device and it will be pushed into our telemetry API, where then it will be picked up by the mobile app. So all you need to do is just like get notifications about your vehicle health and any error codes that are going to come. Another feature actually was being asked was the eco driving features, because the hardware devices now, especially the R1, has got a really sophisticated 3-axis accelerometer, and that really helps us a good understanding about the vehicle movements, right? So we can actually report back the driver their braking habits or acceleration or even harsh cornering. So it could be my dad driving the car, the other week, and it could be with me this week, and you can clearly, see the differences of, driving habits of different people, because then you got, certain level of G forces applied as you drive, and those will be our goal is to make those signals also available for our users.
Cool. Yeah, lots of data coming off the car. I certainly want to know when I'm hard braking, if I'm hard braking too much, if I'm hard turning too much. I want Progressive to know less. That sounds great. I like the driver being in control of that. Cool. And I'm happy to report that as of 2 days ago, we have officially broken 3,000 LTE R1s connected to DIMO network. Just after launching in the fall, it's been great to see the reception to it by the community. Also, it earns the most rewards out of any of the hardware devices. Some governance passed when the LTE R1 launched. So if you are connected with an LTE R1 and a software connection and you're staking and you got a streak, D Mondays are looking really bright for those users that are doing the most there. Cool. You guys got any parting thoughts or reflections or shout outs to Ruptela or anything?
Well, they've been an amazing partner for us, and we'll continue working with them into the future and bring more and more new features to our users. And if there's something you'd like to see, reach out to us, and we'll have Hayati, our head of hardware ecosystem, chat with Ruptela and our other hardware vendors to see when we can bring it to you.
Absolutely. I would just say this is just the beginning. It's only been a few months, and just looking at them, all those devices you just mentioned, 3,000 of them just minted and many more on the way. And we're really excited. And as we work closely, these things are going to get even better.
Yeah, it was great too. We shared a booth with Ruptela this year at the Consumer Electronic Expo (CES) in Las Vegas, and they brought their whole briefcase full of prototype hardware devices and stuff like that. They're really on the forefront of creating consumer electronic devices, and great to have them as a partner. If you are sleeping on DIMO, go and get yourself an LTE R1. Plugs right into the OBD2 port. Unlike the AutoPi Yev was talking about that needed Velcro and a long cable and everything, the form factor in this is much smaller, much easier to plug in, really simple to get connected with your DIMO app. And next Monday, you'll be earning rewards. Yeah, hey Audie, thanks so much for coming on, talking about hardware today. And shout out to Ruptela. looking forward to continuing to improve and distribute the LTE R1 to drivers all over the world.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much.